Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Timi Kemza James. All our subscribers, new and old, you're all welcome. So a client sent me this picture of this dress and this print, so we would want to replicate that. So without further ado, let's get into the video.
So I have it folded like so. This is it. I folded the first one, and I'm folding the right side inward so that I don't put chalk on it. You know, we are cutting with free hand. So basically I'm folding it into four, and then how we know the fabric is enough for me is this: the person's hip is the largest circumference of the skirt side of her body, so I'm going to be dividing that by 4, and I have 10. Then I have 2 inches allowance. Then I have this allowance here for zip, so you can see I didn't fold and bring this second one all the way to where the first one is starting. So I do hope you understand what I mean. So I'm going to start off by marking the length of the skirt. So the length of the skirt, the length of the dress is actually 58. So her upper bodies, the length is 16 inches. So I'm going to mark 16 inches here. Then I'll mark 58 inches. Now I will need 2 inches to sort of put, I'm going to be putting that 2 inches inwards on the sewing allowance. Then I'm going to need extra ½ inch for joining the upper side and the lower side. Then I'll need another ½ inch. For that ½ inch is going to be the sewing of the lining piece to the fabric. So at the end of the day, what I have here is enough, so I'm going to use the total length of the ankara. So now on this side, which is my starting point, I'm going to mark her waist measurement. So it's sort of like a pencil skirt dress. So her waist that I'm working with is actually 29, so I'll be doing 29 inches divided by 4. So this is how I fold. I measure using my tape. I'll do 29 inches divided by 4, and I have around 7.25. So I'm going to mark 7.25 like so. Now I'm going to be using 1 inch for that, so I'm adding 1 inch. Then the 2 inches sewing allowance, I'm going to mark it here, 2 inches. Then I'll mark the distance from the waist, from her waist to the hip. I will mark it. So I'm using 9 inches. Now the reason I'm using is actually 8.5, but I'm going to use ½ inch here to join the upper side of the dress to the lower side of the skirt side of the dress. That's why I'm using 9 inches. So on that 9-inch point, I'm going to mark her hip measurement, which is 40 inches. Now my dart is not going to extend to the hip, so I don't need to add that allowance. So I'm going to mark the 2 inches for sewing allowance. Now let me just draw that line so that you will understand. I'm just going to go ahead and rule that in a straight line. Now I'll draw the ½ inch for sewing allowance as well. I might even just cut off this whitish side of the ankara. So let me draw the ½ inch below that side. So there you go. The next thing I'm going to mark is her knee length, which from the waist to the knee point is 19 inches. So I'm going to mark 19 like so. So I'm going to square out that knee point as well. So on the knee point, I'm going to mark her knee round measurement. You can go ahead and measure that, or you just use your waist measurement excluding that allowance. It will also be fine. So I'm going to go over with my hip curve and make my lines. So I'll connect this point to here and this one to here. So I'm just going to draw the line like so. Then I draw this one like so. Now, since it's a pencil dress, I'm going to make the lower side smaller than what I have on the knee. So I'll measure what I have on the knee side and take out 1 inch from the hem side of the dress. So on the hem, I'm going to come over to mark 10 inches here. I'll go up a little and mark that 10 inches. You remember I said I was going to have it folded on that side, so I'm just going to come over with my ruler and sort of connect my points like so. Now, so from here, this will be the skirt part of it. So I'll just go ahead and cut out what I have. I have my skirt part available. So let me just go ahead and draw in the dart so you know how I'm going to fix the dart when I'm sewing. So on this point, I'll measure the bust span measurement, which is 3.5. So I'll mark 3.5. Then I'll mark the length of my dart. I want it to be 6 inches, so I'll mark 6 inches. On that 6-inch point, I'll mark 3.5 as well. Then I'll go ahead and connect like so. Then I'll take 1/2 inch on both sides like so, and I'll connect like so. So this is our dart, which I've already paid back here. Now I'll just go ahead and transfer this dart on all the sides of my panels. Then this is it about the skirt side, you see. So for our front, by the time you open it, our back side looks like this. You can see it's separated in two. So for the upper side of the dress is an off shoulder, just like you saw earlier. So I'm just going to rule a line across this white side because I won't be needing that when I'm sewing. So from that point, I'll mark the length of my upper bodice. I'm making 17 inches, but by the time I'm done sewing, it will be 16 inches. So I'm going to mark 17 here and 17 like so. I'll just go ahead and connect it. Now I'm going to mark the length of the off shoulder that I want. So I'm going to be working with 5.5 because she's pretty much she's a conservative client, guys. The person is very conservative, so she doesn't want any cleavage or anything like that. So I'll just mark. So this is the point where I'm going to start work. So on this point, I'm going to go ahead and mark I'll mark her bust span measurement, which I told you it was 3.5. Half of her bust span, 3.5. I'll do the same thing on the hem side because we are doing a bust cut dress. So I'll just go ahead and square that line. Now, from this upper point, I will mark her armhole line, which is 7.5 inches. So I'll just mark that 7.5. That's her armhole line. Then I'll go ahead and connect it in a straight line as well. Now on this point, because I don't want it looking like, I don't want the princess seam line looking inwards like so, I'm just going to go ahead and move this line here. But before then, let me mark my regular 8 inches shoulder measurement on the shoulder and 3 inches neckline. So on the shoulder line, I'll come down 1 inch, just like I would do normally if it were a normal blouse. This is another way of doing off shoulder, guys. So I'll just find the midpoint of the shoulder here. That's just to enable me bring out this dart. It's not like I need this upper side of the body. So I'll just go ahead and connect. I'll find her bust measurement. So the bust point line is 9.5. That's the bust line on the fullest part of her bust, 9.5. So that's from the shoulder to the nipple point. That's the measurement I'm talking about now. This 9.5. Sorry guys, my chalk is... So I'll just mark the bust measurement. So let me label this so you know this is our chest or our starting point line. this side, then this one is our armhole line. So and then this is the bust line. Then I'll mark the under bust line, which is 13 inches. Go ahead and mark 13 inches for the under bust, and I'll draw that as well. So now I'll connect this point to the bust, this bust span measurement here, like so. Then on this side, I'm going to take 1 inch on both sides for that. So I'll do 1 inch here, 1 inch here. Then I'll just connect like so. And I'll connect this side as well. So that will give us the upper dart that we have here. If you want to open the dart more, you can go ahead and open more, so that it gives a better tightening to the chest, which I'm going to be doing. So this is our line here. I'll measure what I have here, this initial line that we have from here downwards. So I'll add the same thing on this side, that's just for a better tightening. Now I'll just go ahead and connect my line like so. Now it will give a very flattery chest area, this tightening that I'm doing on the chest here. So now I'll come back to insert the dart, the lower dart. Since I'm done with the upper dart, I'm coming back here to do the lower dart. Now on the under bust line, I'm going to mark the dart that I need. Generally, the dart that I need is 0.75 on both sides. So on the waist side as well, I'll mark 0.75 on our both that leg. Now I'll go ahead and connect my measurements like so. Then I'll go ahead and connect to the bust point like so. Now the next step I'm going to do is to insert my body measurement. Now on this side, which is my armhole line, not this side which is my beginning point, this side which is my armhole line, I'm going to go ahead and insert the bust measurement divide by 4. So her bust is 35. So I'm doing 35 divide by 4, which I usually just use my tape instead of punching calculator here and there. So I'll just go ahead and insert my bust measurement on the armhole line like so. Then on the under bust measurement, I'll go ahead and insert my under bust measurement. My under bust measurement is 27. So I'll just go ahead and insert 27 like so. Divide by 4. I'll insert it like so. Then my waist measurement or my affluence measurement is 29. So I'll divide 29 as well by 4 and go ahead and insert 29 like so. Now by the time I do that, I'm going to connect this bust measurement to my affluence. I'm going to skip my under bust. Now you'll find out why, because I need to do a tightening. That's why I'm doing that. So I'll just connect it like so. So I'll now measure from this point of my under bust to this line that passed to the under bust to the affluence point. I'll measure how much it is. That's around 0.75. Then I'll be sharing that into 2. I'll be dividing it into 2. 0.75 divided by 2. Then I'm just going to insert it on this dart leg on the under bust. So whatever that is, I'll mark it on these dart legs, like so. So when I mark it, I'll now connect those points back to the affluence point like so. Like so. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my curved ruler to connect. So I'll just go ahead and connect this point back to my bust point, and from here to my bust point, but I'm using this curved side of my ruler. Now this fullest side of the curve is the one that is going to be on the bust side, and this side that slims out will be on the measurement. So I'll just go ahead and connect nicely. I'll do the other side as well. By doing the other side, I'm just flipping the ruler. Now I'm going to go ahead and make my armhole curve, but before then let me add my sewing allowances. Now this allowance that I have on my my chest armhole line that I have here that inserted my bust measurement, I'm going to measure the allowance of darts that I have on it, the darts that I took out, and I pay it back here. You know that darts are depth. Whenever you take that, you must pay. So I pay back the dart. Then I add 1 inch for joining this panel and this panel together. Then I add my 2 inches regular sewing allowance. Then I'm going to do the same thing to the waist as well. I'll measure my dart, then I'll just come over here and mark it. Then 1 inch for joining both panels, then 2 inches sewing allowance. Then I'll just connect that point like that. Now on this line, which I said is my starting point, remember I told you I'm going to be ignoring this side. I just did that so I can get my dart. I'm going to go ahead and mark this dart that I have here. I'll bring it back here. So I'll bring back the dart here like so. Then I'll connect it to this point. Now I'll go ahead and use my French curve to connect my dart like so you can see. Now I'm going to add 1/2 inch sewing allowance on the upper side, which will enable me to join my panels together, so to join the lining to this side. Now the chest, the neckline of that dress, you can see, is pretty much just straight. It's like a square neck or a straight neck that just went straight over. So that is it. I'll just go ahead and cut out my panel, my front side. Now the back is pretty easy. I have a tutorial on off shoulder as well, so I'm just going to be linking that. For the back, there's nothing much on it actually, so I'll be linking that tutorial as well for you to see. Now I'll cut this side out like so, to the under bust tightening that I did to remove my dart. Then I'll cut, I have one side, and then I'll do the other side like so. So my dart is off. So these are my front panels. Now you remember that this white stuff that I said I was cutting out, I'll just go ahead and cut that out. So this is it about our front. Now let's go ahead and do the back side. For the back side of the dress, I'll just go ahead and impute my dart allowance first, which is 2 inches here, 2 inches here. Then I'll just connect like so. Now I'll mark that 17 inches that I used for the length of the upper bodice. Now my starting point was 5.5, so I'll just go ahead and mark that 5.5, and my 17 inches is here on that line that I wanted. Then I'll mark my 5.5. Now I'll just go ahead and connect my lines together. Then I'll mark my bust span plus 1.5 inches. So the bust span is 3.5 plus 1.5 inches is 5 inches. So I'll mark 5 inches like so. Then I'll just put that 5.5 here to find my armhole line, which was 7.5, what we used. So I'll put 5.5 and mark my 7.5. Then I'll just mark that. Now I'll mark my bust measurement on this line. You remember our bust was 35 inches, so 35 divided by 4, we had 17. I say 17, sorry guys, we had around 8.75. so I'll mark that. Now that is not going to be extending to this point, so I'll just mark 2 inches sewing allowance. So on the waist side as well, I'll mark my waist measurement, which is 29, divide by 29 divide by 4. Then I'll mark 1 inch for that. Then I'll mark 2 inches sewing allowance and connect these points. Now I'll just go ahead and make my armhole curve on this side. Now I'll add my 1/2 inch sewing allowance on the upper side here. I'll bring down my neckline to this point on the back side. So I'll just drop my neckline from this point. I don't want my neckline to be straight, so I just made this line here. Now let me go ahead and draw my dart so you see how my dart will be. So that 3.5, I'll mark it here. I'll mark it on this line as well. Then I'll connect this side like so. Then I'm going to mark the back dart is usually longer than front dart. I'm going to mark 1/2 inch on both sides. Then I'll connect my dart legs. That's it about the back. Now I'll go ahead and cut. Now remember that 1/2 inch I added here. I'm going to just cut that with that. So for the sleeve, I'm going to fold a very wide piece of fabric. Now it depends on how puffy, it's a puff sleeve and another flay sleeve on top of it. So it depends on how much volume you want to see on the sleeve. And just like I told you initially, she's pretty much a conservative person, so I don't need to do any excess drama on it. So this size is okay. So mind you, I folded it in 4 because I want to cut the 2 sleeves at a time. Now the length of the sleeve that I want is 12 inches. So I'll just mark from this point. I'll mark 12 inches. Now I'm going to need to pass elastic on the sleeve, so I'll be adding another 4 inches. 2 inches is going to be for elastic, 2 inches will be for that fold by the time the sleeve comes together. So 12 inches plus 4 is 16 inches. So I'll mark 16 inches here as well. Then I'll just connect it and cut that piece out straight. Now just cut this side out. Now there's going to be elastic on the upper side and on the lower side. Now I'll move the fabric aside. Now on the upper side, the elastic band case that I'm going to make will be like around 1.5 inches. So I'll mark that 1.5 inches like so. Now from this point, I'll mark my sewing allowance that I'll be closing this side, which is 1 inch. Then I'll go in by 2 inches like so. Right, so from this 2 inch point, I'm going to come down. You remember, I'm going to put my tape at 5.5 here. Then I'll mark her armhole curve, which is 7.5, her armhole line. Then I'll connect these points to there and sort of go in like so for the armhole curve. So it will just be like this. So now I'll go ahead and cut this side out. So by the time I just fold this side in and pass my elastic, my sleeve can still fit in properly. So this is it about our sleeve. This is what we have. This is one of the sleeves. Now it has another flay sleeve on top of it, so we're just going to go ahead and cut out that flay sleeve. Measure this sleeve top, the top of this sleeve, so that I'll find the radius for me to use as the radius for that flay sleeve. So it's 25.5. So that's the measurement I'll use for the radius of the flay sleeve. So I'll just grab another piece of fabric and continue drafting. So now to cut the flay sleeve, I'm going to be folding my fabric in four, just like you would fold your handkerchief to cut the flay. So I'll just go ahead and fold it nicely like so. Now I want the flay sleeve to be a 180-degree flay. So I'm folding it in four instead of two because I want to cut the two sleeves at a time. So I'm going to cut one 360-degree and share it into two to give me a 180-degree flay. I hope you understand what I mean. So now that measurement we took from the first sleeve that we did, the length of the top side of the flay is 25.5. So because I'm cutting two at a time, I'll be multiplying that measurement by 2, which is 51 inches. So the radius of 51 inches, what I found, which is 8.1. So I'm going to mark 8.1 inch on this side on the pointed side of this flay. So I will just go ahead and mark 8.1 like so. I'll mark 8.1 round. Then I'll mark the length of the sleeve that I want. So the initial sleeve, by the time we're done, if they wear it, is going to be around, the length is going to be around 10 inches. So I want this one to be like 3 inches above, no, let me say 4 inches above it. So I'm going to mark 8 inches. Now the reason why I'm marking 8 inches is because I'm going to need 1.5 inch to fold together with that initial sleeve for the elastic to pass, and I'll need ½ inch here. So I'll go ahead and continue marking 8 inches here on the line till I get the length of my sleeve that I desire. So I'll just go ahead and draw this line out. Now I'll just double check to see if I do not have a problem on the lower side of the sleeve, and if I don't, then I'll go ahead and cut. I'm just not cutting from the beginning in case I have any corrections to make. So now I'm going to share this sleeve. I'll be cutting it like these sides that I have here. I'll just go ahead and slit them open, and then this is it. This will be what one sleeve will look like. By the time I bring it up together with the gathers, you can see it's already making this nice flay on it. So this is it about the cutting of our dress, guys. And let me put all our panels for you to see. I have this flay sleeve, then I have the regular sleeve here. By the time I put this one on top of this one, you can see that the flay matches, and this one will just sort of be puffed, and they will all puff out together. These are our sleeve patterns. We have the back pattern. We'll keep this aside. We have the upper pattern, the upper bodies, and then the skirt bodies. So this is it about this video. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share this video with your friends, subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified whenever I have a new video up on the channel. And in our next video, I'm going to be showing you how I assemble this together to become the full dress, which is the sewing tutorial, guys. So without further blabbing, see you guys in my next tutorial, guys. Bye.